It's Margarita Skypet, and in today's video we are going to discuss tiny diamonds versus big diamonds. And I don't mean really big, but stay tuned to find out what size should you set your wedding band with. What diamonds are more practical, the tiny ones or the bigger ones? Bonus at the end, and of course I'm going to show you a video comparison of both, and we'll be discussing setting your jewelry with small tiny diamonds, pros and cons. Stay tuned. Mr. Max is setting a really cool ring with tiny little diamonds. I think they're like 0.6, 0.7. Let me show you. You guys, these diamonds are like 0.6, 0.7 millimeters. You can't even see them. That's so tiny. I'm gonna do a close-up. It's so funny that when you put really tiny diamonds, it almost looks like there's no diamonds, it's just metal. But some styles are made specifically to have that in mind. The designer that made the ring had in mind to have these really tiny diamonds that come flush with the metal, which some people really like while others don't. Let me show you how tiny these diamonds are, and I'm trying to hold my hand still so you can see it. Look at this, you guys. Really small diamonds. We don't normally like to work with really tiny diamonds. Part of the reason is because one, you can't really see them, and two, they actually cost more, which is an interesting thing and most people don't realize. But the smaller the diamonds are, the more they cost. And the reason for that is because they're really hard to cut. Can you imagine cutting a diamond that's almost the size of a dust? What kind of eyes do you need to do that? The cutting of the diamonds is still by hand till this day, and so that's where the problem comes from, is that smaller diamonds take a really long time to cut and a really good eye and a lot of expertise, so they cost more per carat. We have worked with a lot of them, and sometimes you need them to fill that gap. If you're, let's say, setting 100 diamonds on a shank and there's a gap where you need to pinpoint and put a small diamond. But in general, when the client asks for a really tiny shank with really tiny diamonds, our answer is no. And one of the reasons is because it doesn't look good. When the tiny diamonds are there on the shank almost looks like it's just gold. So the point of diamonds goes away, not to mention that you have to pay more for the diamonds themselves. So we're not big on setting tiny diamonds on shanks. I know some people love that minimal approach, but I feel like you can still do minimalistic jewelry without having to resort to really tiny diamonds. And we've been doing fine with 1mm diamonds and up. Basically minimizing the gold while maximizing the diamonds is what we're going for, because that gives you the brilliance and the floating effect of seamless diamonds. I am working on photography today, taking photos of some of our beautiful rings, and I'm doing it, let me show you, right here beside the window. This is the window from our office in downtown Miami. Beautiful view of the downtown Miami. If you think I have a fancy box for taking photos, I do have a box that I take photos with, but I prefer natural light and, believe it or not, just window, because it gives me so much more depth into the photography that I like my photos raw, different, and just something that I enjoy as part of my creative process. We obviously have photographers that we give our main jewelry to take professional photos, but a lot of my go-to photos or photos I need to send to my clients are just made in front of my window, just like that. You see this beautiful ring right there And I'm going to get a close-up because you probably can't see from that distance. We have used 1mm diamonds here. It is also very minimalistic and tiny, you can see. But you could still see the diamonds and you could still have that sparkle from them. So we are a big believer in larger diamonds. And again, 1mm diamonds are really tiny, don't get me wrong. We still use tiny diamonds. So you see, this is the ring that Max is setting with really, really, really tiny diamonds because the client wanted to. We can't say no to a client if it fits with our idea for practicality and it fits with our idea of being safe, then it's okay. I told you in the previous video that if you came to me and you asked me for a really tiny shank when your center stone is 3-4 carats, my answer would be no, and all of you know this. But if you want really tiny diamonds and there's no harm in having them there, if you're willing to pay the price for the labor and for the bigger price because you're paying more for the tiny diamonds, then we're fine with making it. But at the same time, I just don't advise it. Like, look at this ring he's making. The one that I showed you before, but I'm just trying to get like a really big close-up. Okay, so there's diamonds set on here. Honestly, you won't even see them. Once this huge center stone goes in, it'll just look like some kind of design on the band. Like, they are tiny. I think they're 6mm. And then these are 1mm. You see how much bigger they look right away? I find it so unnecessary. You know, in labor, this ring is probably going to be a few $1,000s because it's more than 300 diamonds and they're tiny. So it makes no sense. You're getting tiny diamonds, almost no carat weight, and you can't even see them. But a lot of people enjoy this, so I'm just showing it to you in case you are wondering to do this. For your ring, you will pay a lot more. These are 1mm diamonds on this band. 1mm is really, really tiny. 6mm diamonds on this band. Really, really tiny. The center stone is huge. It's like 20 carats. I'm not even joking. You see how tiny that is? Super small. And you see in comparison to the 1mm. The 1mm looks huge. Let me show you another fun comparison. Look at this, you guys. 3mm diamonds and 1mm diamonds. Very, very different. The 3mm obviously looks gigantic. But the 1mm looks just as good in my opinion. You know, it has that more of a dainty feel, but you could still see all the diamonds. You could see the glow of the diamonds, so you're not losing much, which I think is a big win-win. They're obviously two different wedding bands, but some people like big diamonds, some like it more dainty and minimalistic. It's up to you, but I think both look fantastic. And what my point of this is that don't go smaller than 1 to 1.1mm diamonds on your wedding band. Just don't do it because you won't really see them, so there is no point to it. Let's talk about another common mistake done by the jewelers, and we're not different than anyone else. Yes, we do mistakes. That is totally normal. We are people just like you. And I'm going to show you a ring that was a mistake that turned into an item in our collection because people liked it. The mistake was that the client wanted diamonds on the part where hand engraving took place. Let me show you. This is a hand engraved ring as part of our Maya collection. It's stunning, very bohemian. It's got some vintage motif. I'm gonna do a close-up so that I don't do this because I'm sure you won't see it. The mistake is the client wanted to put diamonds around in the eternity style, and we did. Can you see diamonds? Even when I do a close-up, you'll have a hard time looking at the diamonds. Why? Because once you have hand engraving, the elements are so busy on its own, then unless you put gigantic diamonds, you won't see any diamonds. And so while we did make this ring a mistake and we had to remake it because the client obviously didn't like it and we didn't have experience with it, so at the time we just went with what the client wanted. And then when she looked at the ring, it was just not worth it for her to pay extra dollars because, quite frankly, you couldn't see the diamonds. We took the ring back and just made her a new one with bigger diamonds because that's what she wanted at the time. But we ended up staying with this model. And instead of, remelting it or remaking something else from it, we decided to put it in our shop. And to our great surprise, there were actually quite a number of people that did enjoy the fact that the diamonds were there, but it was such a subtle ring. They liked the fact that it was a subtle sparkle and a ring that was more, bohemian, vintagey, but not in your face. So we did sell quite a lot of it and ended up keeping this model in our Maya collection, so which was a mistake, ended up being a good seller. That's gonna tell you two things. One, really there are no mistakes in jewelry, especially when it comes to design, because everyone is so different. What might be ugly to you might be so beautiful to someone else. And two, you know what? Always give jewelry a second chance, just like we did, because we were gonna remelt that ring and just take out the diamonds. And then I thought, why not keep it? I thought there was a charming side to it. And I'm happy I did. Let me show you a close-up of this ring. And you can judge on your own. Do you like it or no? Would you keep it or would you not ever wear it? See it? Beautiful engraving elements, very, very busy. And then we've got diamonds, and I'm so sorry for not being able to focus properly. We have diamonds going in eternity way. You see them there. They're not that small, believe it or not. I think they're about 1.6 millimeters, but you can't really see them. And so obviously the client didn't want to pay extra for all these diamonds that you can't see. So we ended up making another ring and putting really big diamonds so you could really see them. And this one we ended up keeping. And a lot of people ended up enjoying the fact that it's such a subtle sparkle and the diamonds are not as vivid, but you can still see them as part of the engraving design. So this is our wedding band in our Maya collection, which looks quite stunning and quite different. And so you want to ask me why you shouldn't set your wedding band with tiny diamonds. And that is because, drum roll, that is because you're going to pay more for no reason. What is the practical size for a wedding band? What is the practical size to put in your stones? What if the jeweler asks you, do you like more larger diamonds, tiny diamonds, medium-sized diamonds? What does that all mean? It means nothing until you actually see it. So ask the jeweler to go over these and show you small diamonds versus medium versus large. Ask them to show you what 1 millimeter looks like, what 3 millimeter looks like, so that you know where you are. There's no harm with setting your wedding band with any type of diamonds. It doesn't matter if you choose from 1 millimeter to 3 millimeters. And the biggest thing is, it's all your taste. It all depends on your engagement ring. Is it a big engagement ring? Is it a small engagement ring? Do you want your wedding band to be small or big? Do you want it chunky? Do you want it dainty? Do you want them to be as part of the set? All these will determine which size diamonds you should set your wedding band with.